One is a wacky duo comedy with criminal shapes from the late 70s. The other is from the early 2000s, so it's a bit brandier, a bit hornier, if you will. The In-Laws, They Remade It.
Hi, and welcome back to another episode of They Remade It. I'm your host, Stuart.
And I'm your host, Jacob.
And we're, golly, shit's busy these days, folks, isn't it? It's, oh, God, we are, I guess I'll preempt it with saying that this one will be a bit more, not necessarily loosey-goosey. I'm sure we'll get into our rhythm just fine, but, between our own schedules and just, like, the difficulty of finding other movies online, this one's been a bit back and forth of getting it set up.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to reveal it outright because there could be potential for it in the future if I plan better. But yeah, we had to nix the previous idea and go with a new pair of movies at the last possible minute because I didn't do research ahead of time. So
it's all good.
Yep, we will look at it. But hey, I had this one on lock. I have, as Stu knows, I plan out every movie I plan on doing in the year, like around New Year's, just because I get excited and I want to get the ideas out of my head. And The In-Laws has been on my list of things to cover since 2020, but it gets pushed every year because I find out that, this has a remake and I want to do it, and I look at the movies, which will I bump? And it's been The In-Laws each time, so I've had this in my back pocket for a rainy day, and it saved my ass. Now I can't rely on it anymore.
And you have to be soldier on, with whatever, if one could consider this soldiering. But you know what, that's the closest I'll ever come, so I'm good with it.
Oh, this was a rough couple of movies to get through. Pulls out comically large bottle of vodka and slams it on desk.
Where have I seen this joke before?
Don't look at it.
Cringy early 2000 teen memories. No, stay away.
Let's bring out some better memories. Hopefully, what have you been doing here recently? What have you been watching, playing, reading?
I've been trying to be a bit better about watching things. At least as far as movies go, I've just taken some more time kind of during the day just while I'm working, just to have at least try to have something on in the background. Most recently it was the new Prey, the new Hulu original for like the Predator movie.
Yeah.
Since I had heard all the buzz around it, and it was pretty damn good. I think there's been a lot of buzz online, people talking about like the correct way to do a Predator movie is just have another kind of movie and then drop a Predator into it. And yeah, that's pretty much it. This was otherwise a pretty like an intense period piece centering on, Comanche Native Americans in, the early 1700s. And then also all of a sudden there is a predator there and shit gets wild. It was pretty fun. The effects were kind of like back and forth for me at times, but otherwise I think they did fine. I think the new design for this particular predator was really, really, really cool, really distinctive. So I think solid 8.5 to 9 out of 10. Good, damn good film. Nothing special about it.
That's not bad. I know a lot about it. I have not seen it for myself, but it's in my watch list, as I've heard similarly pretty rave reviews in comparison to the rest of the Predator franchise. And having not seen it, I agree with that assessment. Just drop the Predator into. I mean, that's kind of what the first Predator movie is, more or less.
Yeah, you can
it feels like this jungle action movie, and all of a sudden there's like alien bounty hunters in it. So
yeah. Kind of even the second one, despite it being a bit weaker, it's basically just one of those like Dirty Harry movies, but then all of a sudden there's a fucking alien. So.
Oh yeah. So yeah, just go with that. Stop digging into the deeper lore of the Predator aliens, because speaking from experience, I don't give a shit.
Yeah, like we can explore like maybe like the individual predators for in each situation. Kind of explore that a little if you want to, because from what I've heard, at least from like there's been a few comic series centered around them as well. Like on an individual level, they're pretty damn interesting. But once you try to get into this wider thing of like trying to get into like the Predators movie where it's like, oh, they have their own like fucking human like hunting range and everything planet, it's like, all right, like we can scale it back a little. This is kind of lame.
That reminds me, because we did the Leprechaun episode for Halloween a couple years back, and I watched all the movies around that time in the series to prepare, and I also found there was like an origin comic book for the Leprechaun put out, which I read, and I was like, oh, I didn't need to No, this is non-canon. This is just a bunch of superfluous information
Yeah.
that does not mean anything to me. And it kind of reminds me of that. Just exploring lore for the sake of lore, it's not really necessary. And in some cases it works, but more often than not, it just kind of bogs down the product.
Yeah. Like, we don't need lore about the little leprechaun man, and we don't need lore about the Predator. Like, for fuck's sake, all you need to know about the new Predator movie is that at one point the Predator punches a bear so hard in the face it dies. Like, that's literally all you need to know. It's like, okay, that's cool.
That's all anyone should need to get through their cinematic viewing habits for the next year, I would think. You'd see that and you'd be like, well, I'm filled. What's coming out in February?
Yeah, exactly. That and
So,
and not to belabor it too much. But the just like the human actor, I say human actors, the two main actors present, the female lead and the male lead, were fucking tastic, I should say. Especially the male lead, because apparently this is his very first like actual movie appearance. He was previously like a gas station attendant or something, and then all of a sudden he just rolls up being like, "All right, yeah, sure, I can go toe to toe with the Predator. Fuck you."
damn.
It's like, all right, cool, good on you. So yeah, good film. It kind of sets up for a sequel. I don't know whether or not they'll cash in on it, but you know, it's good. It's fine as a standalone. I feel like if they explore too much more into this one, it might just kind of get bogged down into it. And plus, then it would rob us of the opportunity to have like a Predator in like samurai Japan. That'd kick ass.
Yeah, just do a not not quite Assassin's Creed, but that same general idea. Just do that.
Yeah. Historical examples of just like, you know, how would these people deal with this specific situation?
Yeah, I'd be down for that.
Yeah. Beyond that, not so much in the way of other films. I don't think. I briefly saw a bit of Casino Royale again, just because I was bored. But then I realized, like, okay, I've seen this like a billion times. I'm gonna do something else. Otherwise, I've been trying to rewatch actually Steven Universe of all things with Hannah now, just because we're like, oh yeah, that's a show. Um, Beyond that, mainly more Elden Ring because I have an addiction, as much as I'm sure everyone else does at this point, and like touching on Minecraft again, just because I keep hearing like, oh yeah, there's a bunch of like new updates and shit, and then I play it for like an hour or two, and I'm like, nah, I'm still kind of bored. it's it's hard to stay dedicated to it, like especially after I played with like other mods and mod packs in the past, where I'm just kind of like, yeah, this is all pretty straightforward.
Yeah, Minecraft is one of those there's a handful of games where I have where I'll ignore it for months and months and months. And then I'll be like, "Oh yeah, there is like something here." And I'll play it for like a day or two and then I'll stop again and the cycle continues.
Yeah, that's the mean creeft. But beyond that, I think that's about all. Like I said, I've been pretty fucking busy between work and honestly just getting our house set up. You know, we're finally a bit more settled into the new place. We now have dining chairs, which is nice.
Nice. It took me like a year and a half to get dining chairs.
Yeah, yeah. I was hoping we'd get them as soon as possible, so it's nice to finally have them. Uh, yeah, no, and we're getting a couch next week, so you know, shit's nice and
Nice, yeah.
actually kind of livable. I say, as my office is an absolute wreck right now.
That's all right. I'm happy for you. I mean, if you're going to have stuff thrown about everywhere, have it be your closets and your office. Like,
Yeah, true. Not the non-living areas, essentially.
yeah, it'd be nice if every room was organized, but sometimes if you have to put something somewhere and you don't know where to put it, it's like, well, something that's sort of out of the way. Other people will be
Sometimes
there frequently.
sometimes you need a junk drawer or a junk room. So
Yeah, you just can't escape it. I try my best not to have junk rooms because I like everything being neat and organized, but I do have like 2 or 3 junk drawers, which are kind of organized, but it's a junk drawer. What are you gonna do?
yeah. But yeah. Aside from my recent domesticity, what you been up to?
So I have a couple of things. I actually watched a handful of movies again this time around, but I only have 2 to actually discuss because the others don't really warrant it. But firstly, for playing things, I have been on and off playing through Arcade Paradise, which came out a week and a half or so ago, I think.
It's not like
And
I think it's like an arcade tycoon game thing or something.
kinda, yeah. You're a very relatable character. You're the daughter of a rich man who has businesses all over the place, and he has gifted you a laundromat to teach you the value of responsibility because your character is kind of uh, your father views you as a deadbeat and you dropped out of college and everything, but more is revealed through story along the way. And there's like an arcade cabinet or 2 in the back room that your older sister bought because she was also put through this laundromat test. So you do a bunch of tasks and chores around the place. Sometimes you get to play an arcade game, and eventually, with the money you accrue, you start buying more and more things. Your sister's at City Hall, so she like helps you knock down walls adjacent walls to put in more cabinets, and the whole thing is just turning this laundromat into an arcade. The real management is not letting your like father find out what you're doing because you don't want him to know. He's like he's observing everything you're doing for the large first half of the game. He's like keeping track of the finances, so you got to make sure that he does not know about this.
Well then,
yeah, I think it's fun. I think the main draw of the game is that there are like 25 arcade cabinets that you can get, and all of them are fully realized arcade games. There's like air hockey and things like that, but then others are sort of realized parodies of pre-existing games, pre-existing arcade titles. So that's at least a lot of fun to play. I think there might have been a patch released that I haven't got downloaded yet because I was out of state for a wedding this past weekend. But the main problem I had is that it felt like almost everything was broken. Like every day I would run into something that wasn't working, and I'm like, oh, this is no good. But that's kind of the current.
Like Sorry. Mechanically in the game, or like
I mean, like the developer had to patch it, like things that. Yeah,
gotcha. I think you just meant like the fact of oh, I come in for the day and something else in the arcade is broken, and I was about to be like, that seems actually very realistic.
That's the game. No, that's the gameplay. That's the management. No, that like things like because you have goals that you can use to earn points to buy things, and sometimes you'd complete a goal and it wouldn't get marked off in your to-do list, so you wouldn't get the money for it. And it's like, well, that sucks. I spent 20 minutes doing that. And then other times where you got to pick up trash around the place, and there's something that you should be able to pick up, but for the life of you, it will not be highlighted. So you just got to let like a coffee cup sit there. Like minor things that kind of add up. And it's like, this is getting really frustrating. Unfortunately, that is just the state of modern gaming. Since everything can be updated on a dime, people will just push things out. But at least the developer is apparently they fixed it. I have not seen it yet, as I stated, but apparently that's been fixed.
Yay.
And besides that, I did see two things. Only one of them in theaters this time around. The other thing I watched was, on a whim, I watched Don't Stop or My Mom Will Shoot, which was the action comedy with Sylvester Stallone and Estelle Getty. She plays like his overbearing mother, and he's like a cop, and she comes to town and takes over his life. The most famous part about the movie is the story that I think went viral last year because it was talked about in an interview, where apparently because Arnold Schwarzenegger and Stallone were battling it out at the time, this is the movie that Schwarzenegger leaked to Stallone that he was going to be doing it. So he like pranked Sylvester Stallone into doing this movie by pretending to be interested, which is quite funny because this movie is quite bad.
And
Arnold knew.
I mean, honestly, good on him, I guess.
Yeah, there's not much to say on it other than I just thought that story was funny, and that's the reason why I finally sought it out to watch it, but there's next to nothing of value there, so that's where I'll leave that.
Cool. Fair enough.
And the other thing which I did see in theaters was Inuo, which came over here from Japan, courtesy of G-Kids. It is a Japanese period piece rock opera about the specific style of music that I don't have offhand.
I mean, you got my attention with the first part at the very least.
So that movie is really interesting, and I had a lot of fun with it. It's funny because I was sitting there for a while, like I think maybe 40 minutes in or something, and I'm like, there has been one song. How can you market this as a musical or a rock opera? There's no music. But the latter half of the movie is pretty much just all that. And I really did like it. I have some complaints, but not many. It's funny because it's one of those instances where I really liked it after leaving the theater, and then, days later was thinking about it, like, why didn't they follow up on that? So something that I really liked near the beginning of the movie is, so you have these two characters that they grow up in different circumstances, and they end up meeting and forming this sort of duo rock group to take on current musical trends. One of them is sort of a blind boy. He was blinded by a cursed sword. And so that's the whole gimmick with that character. He can't see anything. And occasionally you'll get to see his view, and it's not pure black blind. It's kind of fuzzy, so the animation style will change so that everything's really hazy. And then when something makes noise, or there's like a bird chirping or something, there will be flashes of color that sort of get illuminated in his field of view. I'm like, oh, that's really cool. And then this other character was like, he was cursed from birth, so he's like this twisted monster, and he's so horrifying to look at, apparently, that he wears this gourd mask with these two eye holes sort of cut out vertically because his eyes are misaligned. And when you first meet him, it'll go into his view, his field of vision, and most of it is obscured except for the eye holes. So you sort of get that him running around in the forest collecting things. And it's cool because you have these two different characters separated by place, but they have different ways of viewing the world due to circumstances. And the movie illustrates that really well. My problem is that it drops it almost immediately and stops doing that, which I was like, well, at least we got acclimated to like the character's viewpoint, but I wish that we had I wish that carried through a bit more, or maybe we experimented in other ways, and I don't think the movie fully takes advantage of that, unfortunately. The only other thing I have is that there's, like I said, the latter half of the movie is sort of filled with these musical numbers. One of them is exceptionally long. It's like 8 minutes. And
Jesus.
It's like 8 minutes or something. And the thing is I don't want to hash it out completely. I wrote a whole thing up about it on Letterboxd. Most musicals, really with their musical numbers, they need to drive the plot forward. And this movie does to an extent, but that 8 minute long musical number does not drive anything. So at a certain point, it's like, okay, can we hurry this up and get to the next thing, please? But overall, I enjoyed it. It was like a solid 4 stars. I'm upset because a couple of things, like I remember bringing up Pompo the Cinephile when that came here, courtesy of G Kids. But there's been a number of things since then, and I think I've missed most of them, including the Deer King, I believe, which I was really looking forward to based on the trailer, but I missed it. So I'm at least happy I got to see this theatrically. There's just a couple things I wish it sort of expounded upon, I guess. But that's pretty much it for me.
All right, then. Is that all? Gee, yeah. That's a hell of a film. Well, alrighty. I think, well, from that extraordinarily complicated sounding film, shall we move on to one that's only slightly less?
Yes. Well, I guess that's fair. I was gonna say 2, but I mean they're kind of the same thing, more or less. So
yeah. Well, like you said, one is horny.
A little something for daddy, as they say.
It seems like mommy in a few cases.
Oh, that's true. In a plot point sort of way. This is the
phrase I wish I had never said.
Okay, so first up we'll be talking The In-Laws 1979, directed by Arthur Hiller and written by Andrew Bergman. We start off the movie with an armored truck of the U.S. Treasury being robbed. The thieves ignore the millions of dollars in cash, instead taking only the engraving plates being transported in the truck, which are then delivered to an oddly dressed man waiting on a nearby rooftop. This man is one Vince Ricardo, played by Peter Falk. The daughter of mild-mannered Manhattan dentist Sheldon Shelley Cornpit, played by Alan Arkin, and the son of Vince Ricardo are engaged to be married. These children would happen to be Barbara, played by Penny Pazer, and Tommy, played by Michael Lembeck. At an introductory dinner, Shelley meets his new in-law, Vince. Sheldon finds Vince suspicious for several reasons, including during the dinner when Vince tells a crazy story of a 9-month consulting trip to 1954 Guatemala. Vince's son and wife seem oblivious and used to his antics. At one point in the dinner, Vince excuses himself to make a phone call, and when he is told something that worries him, he hides something in the basement of the Cornpit home. Later that night, Shelley urges his daughter not to marry into the Ricardo clan, but he is talked into giving the marriage a second chance. The following day, Vince appears at Sheldon's office and asks Shelley for help with a quick errand, breaking into Vince's office safe. Shelley reluctantly agrees. While retrieving a mysterious black bag from Vince's cramped office, 2 armed hitmen surprise Shelley. After a chase and shootout and flight to safety, Vince explains to the frightened Shelley that he works for the CIA and robbed the United States Mint of engraving plates to crack a worldwide hyperinflation plot based in Central America. However, he says he robbed the US Mint on his own incentive and that the CIA had turned him down, deeming the caper too risky. Vince claims that Shelley need not be fearful of criminal prosecution, but says that if he himself is caught, he will be jailed for 20 years. Vince further upsets Shelley by telling him he left one of the engraving plates in Shelley's basement the previous night. Speaking of, during the wedding preparations, Mrs. Cornpit, played by Nancy DeSalt, discovers the engraving and takes it to her local bank, where she is informed by the U.S. Treasury Department that it was stolen. Shelley arrives home to find the Treasury officials there and speeds out of the driveway, leading to a car chase through suburban New Jersey. Shelley calls Vince and explains what happened, to which Vince tells Shelley he wants him to accompany him to Scranton, Pennsylvania, and assures him the whole ordeal will be cleared up by the time they return. At a small airport near Lodi, New Jersey, Vince and Shelley board a jet. To Shelley's consternation, during the flight, he notices they are flying over the Atlantic Ocean. He momentarily panics, but Vince calms him by saying they are still going to Scranton, but he says they first need to make a brief stop along the way in Tahiti, a small island south of Honduras. When they arrive, Vince is supposed to meet a corrupt member of the small country's legislature, Senator Jesus. However, Jesus is shot and killed almost instantly after they land. Vince and Shelley fall under sniper fire, but, using the senator's car, they escape and drive into town. At their hotel, Vince contacts the mastermind of the inflation plot, General Garcia, played by Richard Libertini. Shelley, tired of the ordeal, unbeknownst to Vince, telephones the local United States Embassy and is told by the CIA agent in charge that Vince is a madman who was mentally discharged from the agency. Vince spots Shelley at the telephone booth and guesses what Shelley has been up to. When Shelley tells him what the agent had told him, Vince starts laughing and Shelley tries to flee. Vince prevents Shelley from escaping and tells him the embassy was following standard procedure in disavowing knowledge of agency activities. Shelley thinks it's possible that Vince may be telling the truth, but tells him that it does not matter, that he refuses to be shot at anymore and will not go along with any more of Vince's plans. Vince accepts this. Leaving the hotel, Vince hails a taxi and is driven off. Shelley, looking on, notices the actual taxi driver tied up nearby and realizes Vince is in danger. Shelley chases and leaps onto the roof of the taxi. Vince takes control of the car, crashing it into a fruit market, and after another shootout and car chase, Vince and Shelley reach the general's estate. The eccentric general gives them $20 million for the plates and awards them medals, then marches them in front of a firing squad. Vince stalls while Shelley rambles despairingly, and just in time, dozens of CIA agents arrive to save them, led by Barry Lutz, the agency from the embassy played by Ed Begley Jr. They overwhelm the general's army and take Garcia into custody. Lutz reveals that Vince was telling the truth the entire time. They were aware of his undercover status. Vince retires on the spot, saying he has had enough of a spy's life. He gives Lutz $10 million he had received from the general. Vince and Shelley, of course, take off with $5 million apiece, which no one else knows about, and on their return home give their children a wedding gift of $1 million per person. Now for The In-Laws 2003, directed by Andrew Fleming, screenplay by Nat Malden and Ed Solomon, and based on the original In-Laws by Andrew Berkman. So, more or less, the 2003 film hits the same general beats with a couple of admittedly large differences. So, firstly, I will go into the cast just for simplicity's sake. So, Albert Brooks plays Jerry Pazer, Michael Douglas plays Steve Tobias, Lindsay Sloan plays Melissa Pazer, Ryan Reynolds plays Mark Tobias, Candice Bergen plays Judy Tobias, Maria Ricosa plays Catherine Pazer, Lindsay Sloan plays Melissa, David Suchet plays Jean-Pierre Thibodeau, and Robin Tooney plays Angela Harris. So, in this rendition, there are some differences in character. One of the first ones I would note is the character of Angela Harris, who is sort of an agent working alongside Michael Douglas's character, being undercover. She ends up teaming up with the quote-unquote bad guy of the movie, which is Jean-Pierre Thibodeau, by the end of the movie, trying to hijack this submarine, which they are trying to offload, as well as the money that was going to be given to the children for their wedding gift. So they end up going to France instead of the Honduras island, or at least an island off of France, in which they meet this Jean-Pierre character. And in this rendition, Albert Brooks, who is the doctor and is sort of dragged along into this, is sort of given an alternate persona that is reflected upon positively by the Jean-Pierre character for reasons we'll get into later. And that's sort of the crux of the whole thing, is trying to balance out Jean-Pierre's affection for Albert Brooks, all the while Michael Douglas is doing his espionage CIA activities in the background. And the other big thing I'd like to bring up is the fact that, whereas in the original film, the wedding is kind of the end point of the movie, they make it there and everything's happy. In the remake, the wedding is actually where it's revealed that this Angela Harris CIA character has been plotting behind their backs the whole time. The wedding is sort of hijacked. People are more or less kidnapped and tied to chairs, while David Suchet's character, Jean-Pierre, and Angela make off with the money and escape in this submarine. And so, there's an action-packed sequence where they drive after them and hunt them down. Michael Douglas and Albert Brooks, I should say. They sort of go after them, hunt them down. The wedding is kind of ruined, but in the end, it doesn't matter, because Albert Brooks' daughter wanted to just have, a wedding on the beach with their core family and no one else invited. So, everything works out in the end, I'll say. And I think those are the primary differences I wanted to highlight. Anything else that pops up, I felt kind of superfluous. Anything you want to add on that, Stu? Am I leaving anything out?
I mean, not that I can think of. I mean, yeah, no, it's pretty much the same, and yet, God, I have a hard time remembering the beats of both of these at times.
And that's the worst part, is that they're not even like all over the place. Technically, they're fairly linear. It's just so many events back to back to back, and sometimes in both cases it can feel rushed, like they're kind of making it up as they go. But I'm also sure we'll talk about that later as well.
Yeah, just a touch.
So before initial thoughts, I guess I will do a quick full circle. So first up, I'll say that we have multiple for the 1979 version, only one for 2003, and we'll sort of run through them in that fashion. But firstly, Alan Arkin, who was Shelley Compet, DDS, the dentist in 1979's The In-Laws. He was the tour guide in 2011's The Muppets, but that movie had everybody in it, so... Moving on to next, we have Ed Begley Jr., who was Barry Lutz in 1979's The In-Laws. He was Ed Mulgrave in 2016's The Ghostbusters, or Ghostbusters Answer the Call, which I've discovered they kind of have erased that byline from the movie. Next is James Hong, who we have seen a lot of. He was Bing Wong in The In-Laws, Hannibal Chu in 82's Blade Runner, the Japanese general that commits seppuku in 1980's Airplane, and Mr. Wu in 2008's The Day the Earth Stood Still. James Hong getting around since the 70s, I suppose.
Glad he still gets work.
Or I assume he is. He's been that Duck Man, that not Duck Man, but he's been like the goose in all those Kung Fu Panda movies, and now they're making Kung Fu Panda 4. So let's hope he gets a paycheck. Let's hope he gets some money. But lastly, 479's The In-Laws is Peter Falk, who was Vince Ricardo, main character in that, and he was one of the cab drivers who gets pulled into the madness of It's a Mad, 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 Mad World, 1963. And the only individual that we have, which is funny because he's one of the only people in the 2003 movie where I was like, I recognize him, but from where? Is Boyd Banks, who is the patient who is originally getting operated on by Albert Brooks in the movie. He was also the train conductor in 2003's The Music Man, which is not where I remember him from, but we definitely did watch that movie with Matthew Broderick, so I guess maybe that's been hidden away in my mind.
I mean, I kind of forgot we had watched that one as well, to be honest.
But that's it for Full Circle.
Oh, well then. Yeah, again, it doesn't feel like these should be as hard to remember as they are at times, but damn it.
Yeah, I feel it. I'm in the same exact boat.
But yeah, I'll let you have a break on that one. I think, like, I'm reminded of a particular phrase I hear every now and again, just from various circles, and that's just the reminder that, like, man, the early 2000s were homophobic.
Oh, 100%.
Like, my goodness gracious, like, people joke about it, but man, like, they did a lot of jokes at the expense of the gay individuals back then, and my goodness gracious, it is on display in the 2003 film. Yeesh. To that point, the point that I'm getting at is that the Jean Pierre character is, like this whole like crime kingpin or whatever, arms dealer. I can't remember exactly. But
yeah, he's a weapons dealer, I believe.
Weapons dealer. That's it. But like the whole thing of it being that he just straight up falls head over heels for Albert Brooks's character, even like in some cases saying like, he never expected to be gay and all these different things. And he finds it disgusting in general, where it's like, man, y'all really are just trying to have your cake and eat it too with this guy, huh? And I won't harp on this too much. Obviously, it's a very elephant in the room kind of thing. But it ends up the final line of the movie is them remarking that as he's being taken to prison, them remarking that he'll probably really like it in prison, heavily implying, prison relationships and the like. And so I just kind of saw that. I was like, of all the ways for this movie to end, like it could have been any number of things. It could have been like showing like the crazy, like the, partner survives the attack or whatever, which I tried looking back. I don't see necessarily exactly where she dies. Did the Jean Pierre character kill her or something? Or did she just die off screen?
Oh shit! I remember him talking about it, but now I don't remember. Oh yeah, I think he said that he killed her for some reason, but I don't remember.
Yeah, because I saw them going to the boat, like they're on the skip and they're going off to the boat or the submarine, and then I just kind of forget.
I don't remember.
But yeah, like I expected like something like that, like she survives or there's some other shit, but no, it just ends with quite possibly one of the most outwardly homophobic jokes I have ever heard.
Yeah. Oh, real quick, I remember I don't know if she's dead. I would assume she is, but he just pushed her off.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah, I couldn't remember for a sec. I was like, hang the fuck on. What happened to that character?
But yeah, that was certainly interesting, and it's weird because I guess the entire point of this Jean Pierre character is that he has latent homosexual desires that he hasn't acted on for various masculinity type reasons, especially being like a crime lord kingpin or whatever. I think that's what they're supposed to be getting at, but I guess he finds Albert Brooks attractive. They don't really relate a whole lot. They lay down on these benches and talk about feet for a little bit, and then they go for a soak. But really, the entire thing is just this Jean-Pierre character is like, oh, Albert Brooks has a fat cock. I've heard that his penis is giant. And I think that's it. I think that's where it all comes from, which also isn't great.
Yeah.
That it's like, oh, well, this guy is gay and he wants dick, and that's it. The end.
Yeah. I promise we'll talk about other parts of the movie, folks, but like it is hard to kind of like look beyond this one and never take us to be the types to be like, the staunch defenders of the LGBT community. Obviously we're both supporters of it and everything for various reasons, just mainly among like just basic decency. But like, my goodness gracious, it's a lot in this movie where it's just like it's so pointless. There's no point to all of it. Like, why they could have had like the female, like the assistant character maybe be the kind of core of that. They could have brought her along if they really had to have some weird romantic subplot shit going on. But like, no, they just really were fascinated with the idea that this dude is just horny for Brooks's dick, and that's it. Like, there's not even a joke along with it. It's just he's just kind of obsessive over it and everything. And like, there's no real chemistry between the characters. Like, it would make sense if there was something going on, but no, it's just like it's just being like gay people, insert laugh track.
You know what's fucked up is that while I was watching these scenes in particular, the only thing that was going through my head in an instant of a really not great movie was the interview with Seth Rogen and James Franco, because they go over there and James Franco starts developing this kind of relationship with what is supposed to be Kim Jong-un. And of course the whole thing is that they're like trying to pull one another into a trap. But it's fucked that I'm thinking throughout these scenes with Jean-Pierre and I don't remember Albert Brooks's character, the whole time I'm like, the interview did this better. Somehow, some way, there was more thought put into the interview.
Yeah, like, I mean, it's just like a basic level of just making chemistry and making the characters seem to give a hell about each other. But this one was just like, no, this dude just for apropos of nothing is just this very, closeted man. It's just like, I don't
Very
know,
sad.
man. Like, it's just stupid. More than anything, even beyond the obvious, just, very, very on display bigotry alongside of it. It's just like, it's just stupid. It just goes on way too long, and it's a bit that doesn't need to be there for the vast majority of the time there. Like, maybe like having kind of a brief thing, maybe it's like a brief thing where he's kind of like implied that he might kind of have a thing towards you, so the audience is like, wait, what? And like that'd been funny. Where it's like just a quick just a quick moment of, wait, did we all see that? But no, it just doesn't shut the fuck up. And it's to the point where it's just difficult to even think about the rest of the movie at this point.
And I will say, I swear we will talk about the 1979 version here soon, but
yes,
I am a big fan of Albert Brooks. I find him hilarious.
Yes.
I cannot believe some of the shit they had him saying in this movie. I was like, this is not the Albert Brooks that I know.
Yeah.
The delivery was there. Like, I could tell that it was him. It wasn't like a body snatcher. It was just like I could see the script and like he just not gelling with it. I don't know how he got roped into that. Like, him and Michael Douglas don't have any chemistry either. I don't know how Albert Brooks got roped into this, but it's very upsetting.
Yeah. And like the sad part is that there's a lot of good actors in this. It's a lot of like the actors on display. There's nothing inherently terribly wrong at all times. It's just the script is all over the fucking place.
Yeah. Like, this Jean-Pierre character that we keep talking about, this really, like, base level gay character that comes across as homophobic more than anything, played by David Suchet, who's big in Britain and has been Hercule Poirot in official productions for, like, 50 years. He is, like, the definitive Poirot for multiple generations, and he's debasing himself.
Yeah, it's... but yeah, that's our thoughts on homophobia for the day, I think, for the time being. Let's talk about Columbo.
Columbo. Yeah, let's talk about Peter Falk and Alan
Yeah,
Alda a tad.
who was such a just a breath of fresh air compared to the fucking acts on display with the 2003. My goodness gracious. Um, I don't know what like before I just kind of like continue into more of the plot or even just like performances because the plot honestly at a certain point is even in the movie feels secondary. It's another one of those movies that very much feels like it's just meant to be setting up very specific bits and the plot's
Yeah.
just kind of stringing them together, which is fine. There's nothing inherently wrong with that ultimately. But like before we go into that, what the fuck is it with Peter Falk that is always the most charismatic man on screen? Like what the fuck?
I think it's just I think it's the dialogue specifically. Like the way he talks is very it's I don't know if you put that style of voice with a different way of speaking, I can see it coming across as like really aggravated. But the way he delivers his lines is always so calm. It's like this. He always comes across as like an elderly detective who knows his shit and is just sort of relaxed into it. And maybe that's just the familiarity with Columbo at this point, the character in the long running series. But
Maybe.
he just sort of embodies that to me.
And it kind of it works to his favor even further in this movie with the whole thing of like it's trying to imply that he might just be a complete yakko and that all of this is something that he wasn't sanctioned to do. And because that totally comes off at the same time, it's just as likely for someone who's calm under this kind of pressure to be a complete fucking maniac as he is an actual smooth operator, which is like, okay, yeah, this works. I could fully see like just a slight twist of context, and Columbo could just be a a psych ward patient.
Yeah, he would be at the table with Danny DeVito and Christopher Lloyd in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Yeah, I mean that's probably maybe that's all that Columbo is. It's just all the stories he tells.
I think that's exactly it.
I felt as I was saying that I felt my rib cage kind of start to choke my heart of being like, don't make that stupid kind of theory. Do not do that bullshit. Do not do the bullshit. It was all in his head the whole time. No,
Yeah,
he can have good things.
This is his death dream. Are all these cases? All the people that come into the room to wish him farewell, he imagines them as like murderers and thieves.
That guy's got a line out his fucking outside his fucking deathbed. Then my goodness,
Everyone knew him. But
my goodness gracious.
Relating this back specifically to the 2003 one, just to sort of make a parallel. It's funny seeing specifically Peter Falk in this role because Albert Brooks is known for being one of the best improvisers out there, especially in comedy. He can just launch into anything and sort of take you with him. But I don't really get that from 2003. It feels pretty to the script. But
Yeah.
maybe it's just how charismatic he is, but the way Peter Falk delivers some of these lines, especially when he and Alan Alda are interacting with the general played by Richard Libertini, which is the real wacko in the movie, it feels like Peter Falk is going off script and just describing what he's seeing in some of these scenes. And
Yeah.
it comes across as naturally funny. Like there's one scene where they're in the middle of discussing selling these engravings, and Richard Libertini's character, one of his gimmicks besides just being a crazy despot, is he has like a Senior Wences style hand puppet that's just his hand with makeup on it. And at this one point they're discussing, and he just picks up a pitcher of water and dumps it into the hand. And Peter Falk just looks at Alan Alda. He's like, "Oh, he said he was thirsty, so he's taking a drink." And that alone is funny, just in and of itself.
Yeah.
Just the way it's delivered, it sounds completely natural.
Yeah, it's just like that, just that resignation to the realities of the world. It's like,
Yeah,
all right, yeah, that you're damn right. That's what he said.
this is where we are right now.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, I truly hope they didn't try to write a script for him because, like, I feel like that would almost take away from the mystique of that, just him as a fucking actor. But yeah, that definitely feels more ad lib than anything. It's just like, but even then, like, and I, me going on about Peter Falk at this point, like, I don't want that to take away from just even Alan Arkin. Is it Arkin on the fucking
It's
thing?
it's Alan Arkin. I keep saying Alan Alda because I'm thinking of MASH, but it is very much Alan Arkin.
Okay, cool. But yeah, it's like I have seen Alan Arkin in a bunch of random things. It feels like over the years, and I don't think I've ever seen him in a film this early. Like I don't think I've seen him. This is like the earliest I've seen him in any films. At first, I was like, "Oh, it's that guy. Hi, that guy."
Hi, guy.
And my goodness gracious, does he play the straight man better than the fucking 2003 version?
Oh yeah, Michael Douglas. The weird thing is that I think I'm in the same boat. This is one of the earliest Arkin performances I've seen, to the point where he looks so young. I thought I was watching his son at times, Adam, because I've also seen his son Adam in things too. And I was like, wow, this is like really, this is where the similarities really shine. Now that you can watch it, and that was a little haunting to me.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he's very underrated as an actor. Like, I don't know, has he won any awards? I have no idea.
Not off the top of my head. It's very possible, but nothing that I can think of.
Gotcha. But yeah, I think like him compared to Brooks's character in the 2003 version, it's like, yeah, no, this is the superior character in a lot of ways. He's just like he's not least of which for the fact that he has to be the foil to an incredibly closeted man. But I digress.
Yeah.
Again.
Yeah.
My goodness gracious. It's just like I'm trying to like kind of put like words into like why I like the relationship better, because like explicitly there isn't anything too different between the relationship between the two of them in each film, like the the CIA agent and the doctor in over his head. But I guess it really just is that these two are just two such very good personalities and very good actors that it's just as simple as, well, because the script was better, and B, they're very good personalities. Like, what the fuck do you want, people?
Yeah, I think some of it is intent too. Like, yeah. I think the original, the characters seem to be a bit more down to earth, even with all this wacky shit that keeps going on. At no real point do I get the feeling that Alan Arkin's character hates Peter Falk's character, just that he doesn't want to be around him. And so when they actually sort of develop this bond or this relationship, it feels more natural. But in the 2003 one, Albert Brooks and Douglas are taken to such extremes in polarity. Like, Douglas is out of his mind, and sometimes he acts like a psychopath to the extent where I would be like, that's not even like good undercover work. Like, this is like breaking character to create a third character. And Albert Brooks is like this weird hypochondriac that's scared of planes and this and that, and it feels like they actually hate each other, and when they sort of reconcile at the end, to me, it doesn't feel natural. It feels like whiplash.
Yeah. And, like, it's also to the point of, it just feels like they're trying to jam as many cliches into each of these characters as possible. Like, oh, the CIA guy who's just, like, all the nutty things going on with Michael Douglas, and then all the, like, bumbling characteristics going on with Albert Brooks. It's just like, all right, can we tighten it in just a touch?
Yeah, just a smooch tighter. And
yeah. Like,
to that
Arkin's character feels very real in this one. He just, like, to the extent of, like, like anyone in the situation might react. There's a few of the funnier obviously there are scenes that are played up for more laughs than in general, like when he's like trying to serpentine from the sniper shots, where just truly bad at shooting, and he's basically just running it in a circle. That was in any other context, I feel like that scene, especially if they tried to do that in the 2003 one, I would have been so fucking frustrated with it. And this one, no, it just kind of works. It's just like he is this very stiff man just being like, yeah, what the fuck is going on? It's like, it feels very real. And just hearing fucking Peter Falk in the background just yell, "Serpentine, dude, serpentine!"
There's this scene near the beginning after Alan Arkin helps to break into Peter Falk's safe, and he gets sort of accosted by these men with guns out to kill him. And there's a prolonged... It's one of those instances that Family Guy wishes they could get right, where it's a prolonged joke that does get funnier the longer it goes on, in that Alan Arkin is playing this game of cat and mouse around this cab, and they keep going, and at a moment I'm like, okay, how long are we going to do this? And then like 10 seconds later, I'm like, okay, it's funny again. And I think that's because the personality of the character really shines through, and it just, the specific repetitiveness of it reminded me a lot of like a Looney Tunes bit, where like Elmer Fudd will be chasing Bugs Bunny around a tree 20 times and Bugs will stop, but Elmer will keep going, like something like that. There's a lot of funny bits to be had in this original movie.
I think it's just like, again, I think like, I know we talked about it so many times before, but I feel like it even just comes down to something as simple as framing, where it's just like, it just has a wider shot of them going through all this compared to all the other shit that happens in the 2003 version. Everything just feels a bit too tight in on everybody, whereas this one, it really just looks like you're from a distance just watching these yahoos do this shit, and that's hilarious. Like, imagine you just saw someone across the street doing all this shit and you're just watching. That's kind of what it feels like.
I think my first assumption would just be it's like a street performance. I have never seen anything like that in my life. Maybe if I lived closer to a city, I would, but I don't know what I would think.
What times I've been to New York, and what other times I've been to like other like inner cities and stuff, it does happen. It's just, it's obviously not as often as like, videos online will make it appear, but yeah, no, shit can be wacky. It's pretty fun. Also, I don't know why I was this is completely sidetracked, but it was driving me crazy for the longest time. I finally realized it. The character that Arkin's character calls from the hotel at the American embassy, like the like orange haired guy that he chats to, like he reveals it. It's a character. That's an actor that I saw in Oh Brother Where Art Thou. That he's in that as well. I was trying to remember where the fuck he was from.
Yeah, it's Ed Begley Jr. I know him
Oh.
mostly from a bunch of TV stuff.
Also, I'm completely wrong. I've looked him up now. He just looks
It's
very
not even the
similar
same
to an
guy.
actor. Not even the same guy. God, I am. Oh God, my brain's in so many places today.
It's okay.
I'm also just trying to think of other points to talk about these two, but I feel like it's hard to defend one of these over the other, as we've kind of established.
Yeah, there is one particular thing that I want to bring up, and that's it's sort of a secondary elephant in the room that we haven't really been dancing around. But since we've brought him up so many times in the show, I do want to talk about Ryan Reynolds.
Oh shit, yeah.
If only briefly. The primarily because he's been around for a while. He did a lot of stuff in the early 2000s, but it only feels like here recently, ever since Deadpool, really, has he had like a second coming. And we've discussed multiple times on the show, he's very obnoxious in the specific style of comedy that he does, and I feel he's getting put in too many things.
Yeah, like The Rock.
Yeah. Oh, The Rock and Kevin Hart combo. They just did that DC League of Super Pets movie. Aren't you excited?
Oh my God, I don't care.
But
God, like, I just, quick brief aside, I cannot from the pit of my soul express how much I truly do not care about that fucking movie. And that pair up once again, the very funny ha-ha comparison of the short guy that does the high-pitched comedy voice with the big guy who is a pro wrestler, who's also an okay actor at best. I don't care. It's just, I'm so sick of it. Okay,
well, speaking of Ryan Reynolds, it's always strange to go back and see him in a movie like this when he's not in a lead role, because he feels more reserved. And I honestly don't hate him in this, but there's one scene where he calls his dad on the phone. They're setting up for the wedding. It's right before Michael Douglas moves the hotel around because he finds out that Albert Brooks like informed the FBI of where they were going to be. So Ryan Reynolds calls his dad, and Douglas is very clearly like doing dumb secret CIA bullshit in the background. And Ryan Reynolds has this line like, "Oh, I see you're working." And the way he delivers it and the smile on his face, I was like, that's the guy. That guy right there.
Falls into.
You want to go back in time and stop it. Just like go to set and be like, no, make him do that again. Make him do that take again. I don't want to see that ever again.
Yeah, like I think like especially early on in the 2000s, he very much did play that particular role of kind of secondary, young, vaguely attractive male character. Like this, more just kind of like an add-on character than anything at times. But goodness gracious, does he fucking milk that shit into the ground going forward? Oh man.
Yeah, that's why it would be more of like a warning than anything else.
Yeah, this is the first sign.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's interesting just seeing all. It's always fun seeing early 2000 movies that have a bunch of people that are still doing shit into the later 2000s and like now the 2020s and everything, where you just kind of see either, oh, hey, they've been pretty much exactly the same and that's good, or hey, they've changed and that's good, or they're exactly the same and that sucks, and they changed and that sucks. You don't normally see changed and it sucks too often, but it's fun seeing on display here of like, oh yeah, he used to be like kind of forgettable, and now I wish I could forget him.
Quickly, someone go make a meme where it's like the 4 squares of, like what's the same is now the same, and just put everyone in their respective square, including Ryan Reynolds has to be in it, and you'll get all the Reddit gold or whatever the hell dumb social media site you use.
Yeah, like wherever we're popular on, which is like, I don't know, fucking some random like Albanian Twitter or something. Who fucking knows?
Foursquare Albanian Twitter.
I don't know, man.
But yeah, that's kind of where we're at. The only other thing I wanted to say, and 79's better. I like it better. I can't really defend 2003 on pretty much anything, but one negative I wanted to bring up for both of them, and I think we talked about it very briefly. I don't remember if it was on mic or not, but I think both of these movies have a real problem with pacing, and it kind of feels like both of them are making up their stories as they go. It doesn't bother me as much in the 79 version because I like Arkin and Falk working together and I find it funny, so it's sort of forgivable. And to an extent, it feels like, like a Hope and Crosby or something, some other buddy comedy team. And you go back and watch those movies and it's like, well, there's little purpose here and it feels kind of slapdash together, but they're funny enough and they're charismatic, so it works. and that's kind of the feel I get with the 79 version. It just does not work in the 2003 like at all.
Yeah, no, not even slightly. And yeah, it really just comes down to the quality of the actors and basic level quality of the script. So it is oh god, yeah, no, it's I can't defend the remake. It pretty much sucks.
Yeah, it's from almost okay. Step back. Almost all comedies from that period are wretched and awful, and near impossible to go back to. Because I think,
Yeah.
and I'm not the first person to say this, obviously, but comedy is one of the genres that ages the poorest. It's really hard to make comedy evergreen.
Yeah. Oh god. Have we had any of like? Are there any of the early 2000 movies we've done on the show that we've said were better?
Yeah. That awful Devil and Daniel Webster movie, Shortcut to Happiness.
God.
That's what it was called.
Oh god, yeah. Which like, that really goes to show how dull the original was. My fucking god.
Yeah, I think I even said on that episode that the original Devil and Daniel Webster is better in a technical sense and a story sense. It's just really boring, and that's one of the greater sins. Is just having trouble holding attention. But
yeah, fuck me, that god. Yeah, like there are a few things that will make me hate a movie more than it just being dull, with the possible exception of like just being objectively terrible. Like which seems obvious in retrospect, but like it's the fact that we were able to pick a fucking early 2000s Alec Baldwin flick over not Alec Baldwin. Yes, Alec Baldwin.
Baldwin. Yeah, it was Alec Baldwin.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. The fact that we picked that over anything else is absurd.
Yeah, but I mean that's just the way that's the way you got to slice it in this. The 2003 movie's just, it's bad. I won't say it's unwatchable because technically that's not true. I've had this conversation with people before, and it's like when we call The Departed bad. The Departed is bad for a number of reasons, but it is in a higher percentile than most movie. We're just talking theatrical stuff here. Like, go watch something like Five Across the Eye. There are literally movies that are unwatchable for various reasons, and I don't think we've covered a movie on this show yet. The Departed aside, Secret of Nim 2 aside, we have not covered something that's actually unwatchable. And I don't know if we ever will, because that is too painful to even consider.
Ghost in the Shell was close.
Ghost in the Shell was pretty bad.
That was very close. There was times where I was like, I can't do this. I think there may have been a point where I think even in there, I think I said I can't do this. I think I stopped at a certain point.
There is a movie that you didn't finish watching on the show, and you didn't tell me till we started recording. I just can't remember what it is.
Oh shit! Yeah. It was a bad one. I think it might be that one, honestly. I'm going to be real. I think
it might have been The Ghost in the Shell? Maybe.
I'm all but certain, because, like, I know what happens at the end, because, like, I think I ended up seeing, like, a synopsis or some shit, but, like, I got to a point where I was like, no, this is bad. I don't like what I'm doing. It's like, I think that may have been it. So, congrats to the 2003 In-Laws. You're not that bad.
I watched the whole movie. I should say, too, I'm not, like, trying to pad for time, but I legitimately forgot to mention I did an experiment with this one, what you've sort of done with the past couple, where I watched the 2003 one first. And so this really horny, disgusting movie, I was like, oh, wow, I have no idea what I'm in for with the 79 one. And I was genuinely surprised. I still think that the chemistry between the characters is good, and I still think it's funny, but I wonder how much that colored my opinion of the 79 one, just like a breath of fresh air,
Oh, yeah. Like, that probably tinged your experience pretty immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I put that out there.
Which, like, I guess you could have predicted that before going in, of like, okay, here's an early 2000s movie versus here is a late 70s movie. Which of these is going to be more cringy?
True, yeah. I guess I didn't know quite what I was expecting. Because, I mean, going in, I didn't know either of these movies were about, like, a crime.
Yeah,
pretending I thought it was like whatever. I thought it was a goofy comedy where one guy really hated, like, the in-law guy. I thought that was
the classic. Which, like, props to it for, beating my expectations. Like, I liked the premise that it ultimately went with in both cases. It's just the 2003 one was also extremely homophobic.
And unfunny. And unrelatable.
Yeah. Yeah. And had Ryan Reynolds.
Oh.
God, we just, yeah.
Man,
the more I talk about it, the more I hate it. I don't know if I have anything else I can reasonably say.
I really don't either. 79 is the way to go.
Oh, yeah, big time.
With this.
Very good film. I'd watch it again. Don't see the 2003 one.
Yes.
19 years after the fact, I'm just ribbing on it. That whatever. Who gives a shit?
Yes. But I guess I'll just go into socials then.
That'd be lovely.
Tie that up. So go ahead and like and subscribe and follow us on any of your favorite podcasting platforms. We're on things like Apple Play, Google Play, or Apple Podcasts if you prefer. Google Play, Spreaker, Podbay, Podomatic, YouTube, Stitcher, all those. We're on Anchor as well, and we are hosted on Anchor. Thank you, Anchor.
Thank you, Anchor.
And go ahead and
I said Anchor at first there. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. We'll tighten it. We don't want to lose that sponsorship. Go ahead and leave us reviews as well and star ratings, especially on Apple Podcasts. That really helps. We are still undefeated, perfect scores across the board on Apple Podcasts. I don't know how we did it, but I promise I did not create a puppet. I did not create a sock puppet account and do that. I swear, I have no idea who out there has been doing that. But thank you.
Very good.
Anyways, go ahead and send us an email, theyremadeit@gmail.com, with suggestions for future episodes, talks about what we could do better, what you like that we do, what's your favorite episode, your least favorite episode, things like that. Or if you just want to chat, that's fine.
We love a good chat. And we love hearing the shit that we missed.
Oh, yeah, I love being corrected on the internet. And go ahead and follow us at It Remade on Twitter for links when episodes are going live, potential future episodes, full circle diagrams based on actors we've covered multiple times, which I like putting together, and little posters and promo arts and things for items that we've discussed at length at the opening of these shows. And that is it for socials.
That's your lot. It's always a nice little breather there at the end of like, okay, yeah, we've gotten kind of all the vitriol out now. Here's how you can enjoy our shit outside of the show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of these days, I'll make a personal unfunny Twitter account that I can plug. But until that day,
it's just like your spoof account or whatever.
Yeah, the account where I find a funny image where someone is talking shit about a dog that a man is screaming at, and then I create an account called That Dog from That Meme, and I reply to it and go, "What the fuck?" And then I get like 500,000 followers in a day. That kind of account.
Get reposted to like Reddit or Tumblr or wherever the fuck.
Yeah. Isn't this hilarious? This has never been done before.
The internet's really just kind of rehashing the same shit, isn't it?
It's a sounding board, pretty much, for the same things repeated over and over again, just with slight variation.
Don't say the word sounding on the internet either.
Okay, well, thanks 2003 in-laws for ruining this whole...
Another phrase I wish I'd never said. Okay, I think I've dug my hole deep enough for today. I'm your host, Stuart.
And I'm your host, Jacob.
We'll see you later. Please don't take me out of context.
Goodbye.
So what happens if you get caught?
We won't get caught, not if he's...
Stop the we! If you get caught, is the agency going to come forward and say it's okay, he works for us?
No.
No.
No. I'm out in the cold on this one, Shell. If I get caught, they shred my records, they say they never heard of me, and it's 20 years in the slammer.
What about me? I was the one running through the streets with that goddamn thing. I was the one in the gutter.
And you were tremendous, Shell. The way you handled yourself, I can't tell you how impressed I was. No, I mean this. It's been something I've been wanting to say. You were sensational, Shell. And it's an act of friendship that I will remember for as long as I live, which could be about an hour.